from under the totem pole. Yeah, bringing it to you live.
1 2 1 2.
Yeah. We back from under the totem pole. Show number 4. From under the totem pole. You know where we reside. It's me, Big Tux. I don't know much. And the homie Jali.
What up? What up?
So we here today to talk to you, and the question is, why should I vote? Black people faithfully have been voting Democratic for years. Some of the worst laws passed under the Democratic Party. What do you think about that, Jolly?
Definitely. It makes me ask the question, what has the Democratic Party done to improve race relations?
Yeah, not a lot. They will not give us what we need. We had to start a group, Tangibles 2020, because of the nonsense, because of the non-directness. They will not address us as black. They will address any other group, but won't address us. And to get our vote, you need to do more. There's a new campaign, ADOS, a classification, American descendants of slaves, and they want reparations. So that's what I want. I want to hear that from somebody running on the Democratic side. I don't know why we're not hearing anything. We need to hear something. And what some of the people think are adequate candidates are not. Kamala Harris, no. She's a former state attorney general of California. She's now in the U.S. Senate. You could check her facts. You could check her resume. You could check how she voted. You could look up anything you want to look up about her. And you can see that she doesn't like black people. Cory Booker, former mayor of Newark, New Jersey. He's a current senator also. He can't even answer a question about race without bringing up how black people are homophobic in the same answer. When I told you the last show that that's a myth. Black people are not homophobic. Go check your churches. Biden, he's a known racist. Look at what he says. Go look up his 1994 crime bill speech. Go look that up on YouTube, and there's nothing more to say about scum like him. Sanders, the jury's still out on him, but I would never trust a lifelong politician. I don't care what you are talking about. A lot of people that support socialism, they say he's a socialist.
Yeah, that's what I hear too. That he's a socialist.
That's right. But he's a socialist that couldn't stop racism in his own state. Go look that up. Because we're getting down to facts here, people. We have a lot of questions, and we'd like to know some answers. Just curious, if Trump is racist, and if so, does it matter? If he is more truthful than Democrats, why does it matter? If he's truthful about his racism and Democrats hide it. But what we're laying out here is a case on the Democratic Party that black people should not mess with that anymore. Not that I'm saying run to the Republican Party, because that is a party that you have no home in either.
Yeah, it's two arms on the same monster.
Two wings on the same bird. So, yes, of course, there's need for a new party to be put in place. I don't know how we get there. That's another conversation. The history of the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is one of the two major political parties in the United States and the nation's oldest existing political party. After the Civil War, the party dominated in the South due to its opposition to civil and political rights for African Americans. After a major shift in the 20th century, today's Democrats are known for their association with a strong federal government and support for minority and women's rights, environmental protection, and progressive reforms. Now notice at the end they didn't say black, they said minority. Remember what I told you, minority means non-black. Get that in your definition. By the 1950s, the civil rights movement galvanized the nation. Congress passed the Civil Rights Act in 1957, 1960, and 1964. But none of these laws were strong enough to prevent voting discrimination by local officials. On March 7th, 1965, peaceful voting rights protesters in Selma, Alabama were violently attacked by Alabama State Police. Congress passed the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which aimed to increase the number of people registered to vote in areas where there was a record of previous discrimination. The legislation outlawed literacy tests and provided for the appointment of federal examiners with the power to register qualified citizens to vote in certain jurisdictions with a history of voting discrimination. That's just a little bit of the history of the Democratic Party. But to even give you more detail and backstory, because everybody always wants proof, but here's a reason why both parties are not good for blacks. John Ehrlichman, however you pronounce his name, I could care less, but he said, "You want to know what this really was all about?" He said, Rickman, who died in 1999, he said, referring to Nixon's declaration of war on drugs. He said, the Nixon campaign in 1968 and the Nixon White House after that had two enemies, the anti-war left and the black people. You understand what I'm saying? We knew we couldn't make it illegal to be either against the war or black people. But by getting out to the public to associate the hippies with marijuana and the blacks with heroin, and then criminalizing both heavily, we could disrupt those communities. We could arrest their leaders, raid their homes, break up their meetings, and vilify them night after night on the evening news. Did we know we were lying about the drugs? Of course we did. So now this was a guy, John L. Rickman. He worked for Nixon. And this was his thing. Like, I believe he later on went on to say, we'll no longer address black people as black. And this is why black people get nothing out of politics. But I keep hearing people telling me to vote. I keep hearing people say, it's your duty to vote.
Or they'll say somebody died for you to have the right to vote.
That lie, that somebody died for me to have the right to vote. Understand, they're telling you how, behind the scenes, how they're approaching black people. Then, if you did not even hear this quote that I just read, you could see the trend by tracing back government for just 10, 20 years. We are not mentioned by name, but every other group is. And this is why non-black people do not take this seriously, because, and if some do, it's a very small percentage, because every other group can get called out. You can do something specifically for LGBT. You can do something specifically for women, which ends up being white women. But you can do these specific things, like you have the Dreamer campaign for Hispanic immigrants. So you can do things that point towards certain groups, but not black. Pay attention. Sometimes people don't have to tell you that they don't love you. You could just see it. You could just feel it. And if you can't, you're probably dead. Then you also have immigrants versus black people. You have to understand that. I know black immigrants from Africa and from the Caribbean sometimes have small pockets. I don't know many, but I have heard from some, and they don't take kindly to black Americans. And I have a very big problem with that. And I usually don't mess with cats like that once I find out they're like that. How I know? I'm a first generation from the Caribbean. That's how I know. So I don't like that when I hear that talk, because that's basically going off of stereotypes that was put out there by a system that supports white supremacy. But see, and how we got there is that civil rights should have just been black rights. Because so far, it just hasn't helped us. It just tear us apart. Other groups have been disrespectful, using the hard work of black leaders, only then to turn on the black family. Prime example is currently you have Mexicans in Cali and Long Beach that are beating up black kids on sight. Non-gang members that are getting beat up. There was an autistic child who got beat up last week. So understand, every time you hear a black leader talk, you hear black and brown out of his mouth. Always caping for other groups. And we maybe have to look at that, or other groups have to kind of just, keep it 100 with us from here on out. But I think until that time, the best thing is not to look for help because it's not coming.
That's right, it ain't coming.
As a man of a certain age, I know that it's not coming. And these are people that are immigrants in this country and come here and hate black people. And I mean, they probably hated black people before they left the country too, because I've been to other countries and I know the hate is real from a lot of different groups of people against black people. I've witnessed it and I've experienced it. New people are injected into American culture over the heads of black citizens who pay taxes and are given more aid and tax breaks. A good example of that is the New York taxi drivers. Jali, you're familiar with the New York area. Yes. You know how the cab game goes.
Oh, man. I remember there's a time when they wouldn't stop for us. I mean, you had to get the card of a cab driver that you knew that was cool to come through the hood to get you, pick you up and take you back home. Mm-hmm. But as far as a black man standing out on a corner and putting his hand up and hailing a cab, nah, it wasn't happening. It wasn't happening. You would see them lock the doors or drive past you. And now you have the issue with the
medallion, that special taxi license thing.
Is now you got the cabbies complaining about the Ubers and the Lyfts.
Oh, man.
It's funny how the pendulum is swung in the other direction.
And that's what they get. That's exactly what they get. Because I've been to New York several times, and I think I've only been in a cab once, and it stunk. So, I was Subway and having the homies come grab me and shit, or the dollar van.
Yeah, dollar vans were great. They were great. Helped the community, fed families, and it was a safe way for the elderly, and people to get back and forth for $1.
Mm-hmm. That was great. Started by black folks.
Yes.
Underground. So what I'm saying though to people is, we pay taxes as black people. We should not have to look over our shoulder for the system. We should not have to get the shittiest jobs. We should not have to deal with the shittiest shit because of how we look. But still, in your comments underneath, please tell me, why should I vote? We got a crazy ass system, and I don't think it's real. It hasn't been anything real to black people. So you give me another option. You tell me what the hell to do. You try to a real politician for the people out there, and you maybe can get a chance to get me out of that house on that Tuesday to vote. People are mad when they find out I didn't vote. I'm the monster. I'm the monster because I didn't stop the monster who became a politician. But really, what are you telling me to vote for though? You telling me to vote to stop mass incarceration, cops killing unarmed kids, fair housing, to stop regentrification, racism in medicine, banking, for black vets to be treated fairly, etc. I could go on and on. I need to vote for that? Jolly, can you buy that?
Man, you can't. You can't. You would hope that when you cast your ballot that those things would change, but we all know it's not. And I mean, it's to the point where I don't even see how people give attention to people that don't even mention your struggle or your concerns in their campaign.
Yo, it's crazy. Yo, no man should ever have to vote for those basic needs. They should come with the tax money that I pay. Black folks are trained not to ask for these basic things. But every other group has asked for these things and received it when needed. Most blacks nowadays will take attention over real policy change. Pay attention. Those turncoats will be standing in the front of the line because black people are voiceless and desperate, sadly. Sad to say. And wherever this democracy goes, wherever it's in place, there is confusion, destruction, and the takeover of all resources. That's the only reason for poor leadership in those countries. They treated their own like Obama did his here in America. Obama, he did nothing for his people. But who was his people really? Answer that question. But why should I vote? You can't give me any reason. It's foolish. Everyone knows how things work in this country if you're serious. You guys know what it is. We live in a color-based system. That goes first. It goes color, then money. Understand it. Do your research. Don't take my word for it. Do your research. Then get back to me and tell me why I should vote. Because once you do your research, you'll find out that, yeah, you know what? You're probably wasting your time on Tuesday. Bring me a system of justice and I will vote. Make my tax dollars make sense to me and I will vote.
Give me another party to choose from.
And I will vote. Man, I'm Big Tux and I don't know much.
It's your boy Jali.
You know what it is? And we coming to you live from under the Totem Pole. I just wanted to drop it on y'all real quick, and we just wanted to come and kick it to you and ask you that question, why should I vote? We're not voting, though. Good luck with that. I mean, but we will listen to your comments, and we will take heed to what you say. You never know. I'm not saying never, you know. I'm not saying it can't happen. So, but for the right person and he has to have the right issues on the table. And it's got to make sense, and it can't just be the stupidity that I've been seeing from both parties. So get to work, man. Y'all got a lot of work to do. We out.
Peace.
From under the totem pole, bringing it to you live. From under the totem pole.